get you a job if you want New Year's Day. He's like, my boss is hiring. You got to call people up and try to get them to take a loan. If they take the loan, you get a percentage of it. I'm like, that sounds good, bro. I'm going to take that. And but he's like, but we can't hire you till New Year's Day. This is the job I had in the financial district down in Manhattan. And I'm like, all right, I just got to, I'm doing $1 one joke at this time. It's around 2014. And I'm like, all right, I just got to make it till New Year's Day. I'm not making no money with this $1 one joke thing. And I'm going to take this job. I'm happy to have it. I'm going to get my life together. And so the weather's real bad this year. And I'm not making no money hardly with the $1 one joke thing. So I think it was every Tuesday and Thursday maybe up in Harlem on, what's the name of that street? Nicholas something. It's a pretty famous street in Harlem. I think it's, I forget, but there's a hospital there that's very famous. Anyways, I think every Tuesday and Thursday, this is on Harlem around 138th and the Nicholas Avenue, whatever. There's a hospital there where these homeless outreach people come. I think it's every Tuesday and Thursday. And they give free food. The food is trash. But when you're broke, you're going to eat it. And I'm a picky eater, bro. But it's jail food, basically. And it's a really disturbing memory for me. Because this was like... Hold up. He's working on this big mobile home thing that it sounds like a fucking aircraft carrier or something, and it's from like 1980. You can probably hear it sounds like it's from like 1980. But so you know, I don't want to eat this food. I want to buy my own food, but I'm so broke that sometimes on Tuesday or Thursday I gotta walk up there and get the food and eat it, and I hated doing it, and it's a depressing thought. And so I'm just trying to make it till New Year's. I know my buddy's gonna get me a job. I'm still on heroin, so I'm doing $1 one jokes. I can't afford to even get the right amount of heroin every day to keep me high. So I'm like, for like I don't know how long, but I'm in a state of dope sickness like every day because I can't even afford to get myself right. But I'm not, I'm trying. So I'm getting like a bag or two a day, but it ain't really cutting it. It's not getting me, it's getting me just less sick. It was hell on earth. And I'm also feeling like a real loser because I'm spending my money on drugs and then going to these homeless outreach things to get the free food. I'm feeling, this is like the lowest point in my life. I'm feeling like such a loser, bro. And so Christmas Eve, I think it was Christmas Eve or maybe the day before Christmas Eve, I go to get the free food, and the other people there, you also got to realize you're in Harlem. It's a different type of homeless people in Harlem. They're nastier, they're more bitter, they're more angry, they're more broke, they're more desperate. These are the type of people who, if you look at them wrong, they'll try to kill you. So I would just go up there and not even talk or look at anyone, and they're all miserable. And depending on the day, sometimes there was like 10 other homeless people waiting for this truck to show up. Sometimes there was a bunch, like 30. And it was right before Christmas. There was a whole bunch of us there. And you also got to realize, throughout my entire life, I didn't take handouts. I felt like I come from working class Irish Italian people where we don't take handouts. We're not beggars. We work. This is the mentality I grew up with. I see things differently now. But I felt like such trash. I felt like such a scumbag. I'm also the only white person there, and the other black homeless people are looking at me like, what are you doing here? You know what I mean? And I'm thinking the same thing. What am I doing here? How did this happen? Like, how did my life lead me to this place? And it's surreal, bro. It's surreal. You never know. Life is crazy. Anyways, so I get my free food. It's this like soup with this like meat in it, which you don't even know what it is. For all you know, it's a cooked rat. But I'm thinking to myself, these are like charitable people. They're not going to do you like that. These are people who are trying to help the homeless outreach people. They're not going to spit in your food or nothing. But what are you going to do? You ain't got no food. You got to eat. Whatever it is, you got to eat it. I'm telling you, I'm a picky eater. But when you're starving, that pickiness goes right out the window. But not really, because you don't enjoy the food. You just you're eating it. It's horrible. Anyways, I get the free food, and they're like, it's right before Christmas. They're giving us like free socks and stuff. I'm taking the free socks. I'm feeling like such a fucking loser, man. And it was like the lowest point in my life. So there was that Christmas, and I go back to the why I eat my trash food. And the weather was bad. I couldn't even work right. But one of them days, I had to eat off that thing. I had no money. I had no cigarettes. I had no nothing. I wake up at like 7 a.m. the next day. I walked down from Harlem to Central Park, and I worked. And I'll never forget that day. This was still the same winter. And I work, and right off the bat, the money, it was a good day. I made maybe 50 bucks that day. You got to realize, when you're doing $1 one joke, 50 bucks is a good day. And so I do good that day, and I'll never forget, I went and got my favorite food. So here's a inspirational little message here. I'm telling you, the worst days of your life are usually going to be followed by some of the best. The universe balances out. So, you know, I woke up that day, and I needed to make money. If I didn't make no money that day, I might have, who knows, I might have lost my will to live, because I didn't make no money the previous days. I'm eating this trash food, and I was just done, bro. I had no cigarettes, and so I wake up that day, and I knew I got to make money today, and I got to make a lot of it, because fuck this shit, you know? And I did. It worked out for me. And let me tell you something. It was like winning the lotto. I got my favorite food that day, which is the halal guys, which it's my favorite food in New York for less than 10 bucks. You cannot do better than the halal guys. They got a cart in Times Square, I think on 53rd and 6th, and then they got a restaurant up on 96th, which is, I went to the cart. The cart's actually better, believe it or not. And I got my favorite food. I went back to my room in Harlem, and I was happy, man. I was just happy to not be eating that homeless trash food, and it put me in a real good mood. And then what ended up happening was my buddy did get me the job first day of the year, 2015. I go down to the, I take the train down to, what's the stop right there? It's actually a pretty famous stop that right down by Wall Street. I can't remember the name of it. But that's the stop I got off, and I was working on Maiden Lane down in the financial district. I show up, my boss Nate, cool boss, but the job didn't work out. I worked there till the summer, and then that was the end of that. I was, so the week before I started that job, which, you know, it's between Christmas and New Year's, I ended up kicking dope. I couldn't afford to keep up with it. I couldn't even barely afford to eat. So that whole week, and actually the last day before starting that job, I guess it was New Year's Eve, it must have been, I go to my buddy Casey's apartment. Now Casey, I've got a couple of videos about the legend of Ilya, and Casey plays a big part in that story. Anyways, Casey had an apartment in Harlem at this time. His girlfriend took his kid and left. She was done with Casey. Casey's a hard person to deal with, and I understand it. So Casey ain't paying rent, but he's trying to get everyone to come live in this apartment with him to chip in on the rent. And anyways, I ran into Casey in the park in Manhattan or something. He's like, come by tonight. I got some. He's like, I'll get you a bag. I'm like, okay. And I go to Casey's that night, and he gets me the bag, and Ilya's staying over there. And I'm pretty sure I told the story in a previous video. But that was the last time I did dope. For the next week, I'm working this job. My first week at the new job, I'm kicking dope the whole time. It was a nightmare, bro. And then my buddy who I'm working with, I think it was the Friday right before. Now Nate, I was supposed to wait 2 weeks to get paid, but my buddy Jordan told Nate, he's like, look, my buddy Joey ain't got no money. Will you just pay him for this week now? And Nate's like, yeah, fuck it, no problem. And so Nate paid me, and so Jordan's back there at his cubicle, and I hear him say out loud, now Jordan used to be on heroin too. Jordan's one of my friends from Long Island. And I hear Jordan in his little cubicle, he goes, I'm gonna snort a sub and see if it gets me high. And my brain said, ding. I said, yo, let me snort a half of one and see if I can high. I had just kicked dope. Jordan's like, okay. He cuts one in half and he gives it to me. It's a Suboxone. I crush it up and I snort it up, and me and him are high as fuck. We're giggling, we're laughing, we're having a great time at work. And from that point forward, I'm doing like a quarter of a sub every day, not to get off heroin, but to get high. Jordan's just hooking me up every day. And what ended up happening was the sub stopped getting me high, and then I went back to heroin, and and then this is 2015. Between 2015 and 2017, I was going back and forth between heroin and Suboxone, depending on what I could afford. You know what I mean? Until finally in 2017, I tell the story in a previous video. I ended up getting off heroin because it got to the point where I was so disgusted with everything that I just wanted to feel normal again. I had done a sub, maybe a half a sub, and then the next day I got a bundle of heroin. A bundle of heroin is 10 bags, and I'm thinking 10 bags will last me all week. But what I was like a dummy. I still had the Suboxone in my system. I took that bundle, I snort a bag, it does nothing to me. I snort another one, nothing. I ended up snorting 9 bags, maybe 7, 8 bags, I don't remember. And I barely get high. This is the experience that got me off heroin. And this was around November 2017 probably. And I end up doing most of the bundle, which was supposed to last me all week. I ain't got no money. I could get a bundle in the Bronx for 60. It's a good deal. In Manhattan, it's like 100. And so I did pretty much the whole bundle, and it didn't even really get me high. It gave me this weird half high because I had the Suboxone in my system, and I was so pissed off and so disgusted with myself for wasting that $60 and not even really getting high. You know what I mean? And after that, and then the next day, I think I did the two other bags of heroin. Didn't really do the trick for me. And then the next day, I wake up and I get right back on the sub. Now, this was a mistake because I still had heroin in my system, which threw me into precipitated withdrawal. I had zero money. I had to go work that day. I'm in precipitated withdrawal in my room in the Bronx, wanting to die. I get in the bathtub. I feel like such shit. I'm thinking to myself, this was the experience. I'm like, I'm done with heroin. I'm done. I'm getting on Suboxone. I'm never touching heroin again. And that's that. I just want to feel normal again. And hopefully at some point in the future, I'll be able to get off the Suboxone. But right now, my main priority is to not do heroin no more. So it was that experience that nightmarish couple of days with the heroin and the Suboxone, precipitated withdrawal, and I was done. I had to go work that day. I made a couple of bucks, just enough to get me some weed and some food and get me back home to where I can chill and try to deal with this dope sickness, and then the next day I felt a lot better, and I was grateful. I was done with heroin. I was just grateful to still be alive and to be starting to feel somewhat normal again, and that was it. I was done with the heroin, and I'm telling you, once you get to the point where I was at, it's not that hard to get off heroin. I was done. I got on the Suboxone, and I was content to just not be dope sick, and then a year or two later, I realized how past heroin I was. I got off the Suboxone. So, anyways, I can't think of any other Christmas experiences there were plenty. I just can't think of them. So this video has been a half hour anyway. So I guess that's the end of this one. Merry Christmas, y'all. I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the Patreons especially. And if you want a response to your comment, try to get it.